Let's bring in Travis Branham back to the show. We've said he's been working the phones all day long with the latest intel. Trav, before we get going here, has anything popped up in the last hour that you need to make us aware of?
Just like I was saying earlier, it's going to be a day of guys entering the transfer portal with no eligibility left. And here we are. Dawson Garcia out of Minnesota has entered the transfer portal. So, again, another guy with no eligibility. It's remained a fairly quiet day up to this point, aside from the big news that Rodney Rice is headed to USC.
Trav, let me ask you this. People at home are watching and they're saying, if he doesn't have any eligibility, why is he entering into the transfer portal? Can you explain what the methodology is for these kids, just hoping they get another year of eligibility?
Yeah, it's really just an insurance policy at this point. These kids, everyone, all year we've been discussing about the looming possibility that the NCAA grants these players fifth-year blanket waivers, and that's going to be just part of NCAA college basketball across all classes where everybody gets to play 5 years. So these guys are hitting the transfer portal in hopes that that passes, and it doesn't sound likely at all. The waivers will not be granted as much this year because if you grant one of these waivers, it's going to be an avalanche of lawsuits and other waivers. So I think the likelihood of a guy like Dawson Garcia or Ian Schieffelin out of Clemson getting these waivers and playing again in college basketball is very, very just not likely. And these guys know that, to be honest with you. The best question is, why is the NCAA allowing them to enter and show up in the transfer portal?
That's my question. I understand why the kids are doing it because, as we said, like, quite frankly, if they're not NBA players, even if they are, they would make more money in the open market in college basketball right now. But why the NCAA is even permitting these players who don't have eligibility to go into the portal is what I don't understand. If you're saying they're not eligible, don't let them in the portal. I can't put my name in the portal. Why can they put their name? Or maybe I could. Can I put my name in the portal?
I'll check. We'll check with compliance.
We'll get to that later. Trav, let's talk about intel here because you are all over these guys. Want to talk about some of the best available names. Andrej Stojaković, first and foremost, coming out of Cal Berkeley. What is the latest on his recruitment?
Yeah, so over the weekend, this thing was popping off. You had schools including Illinois, Florida, North Carolina, Clemson, Michigan, several others, all trying to get involved in this situation. He is actually on campus currently at Illinois, and by all means, it sounds like Illinois is the team to beat. They are in the driver's seat, and it frankly would not surprise me to see him make a commitment before he leaves campus.
All right, so we will be on the lookout for that. Trotter, Stojaković started at Stanford, last year at Cal Berkeley, played with the ball in his hands a lot. What's fascinating to me is as much as he improved last season, we did not see the growth in the shooting that we expected because his dad's Peja Stojaković, a prolific all-time NBA three-point shooter. Many people, including myself, expected Andre to follow suit and be able to shoot the ball at a high level. That hasn't happened, but we've seen growth in other areas.
Yeah, I think that the Illinois fit would make a lot of sense because it's just like, okay, we're going to bring the Balkan brothers is going to be a real thing, right? Like Tomislav Ivisic, Zvonimir Ivisic, and then Andrej Stojaković, like adding him to that mix could be interesting. Illinois has a position to be maybe the best shooting front court in college basketball next year with two centers that could shoot and make over 53s. That would open up the rim where Stojaković is terrific. 42% rim rate last year. He got to the rim at will, got to the free throw line a ton. The paint would be wide open for him at Illinois. So it makes sense why both of those, Stojaković camps like Illinois and why Illinois likes Stojaković for the potential roster fit that they have.
Somebody's going to have to guard in that group, though. That would seem to be important. Trav, Cedric Coward, am I pronouncing that correctly? Coming out of Washington.
Yes,
Coming out of Washington State is one of my favorite players in the portal, but the sample size was so small this year. Started out as a D3 player. Tell us a little bit about his story and the latest on his recruitment.
Yeah, just played a handful of games this past season before suffering a shoulder injury. Had to get surgery, missed the remainder of the season, but was definitely moving up NBA draft boards, and he is currently going through the NBA draft process as well as the college transfer portal. So this is one that amongst our team of guys, as we're ranking these transfers, we all actually love him. We're just being a little bit more conservative with his current ranking just based on that injury and the limited sample size of this past year. But in regards to not only going through the transfer process, this thing sounds to be down to just two options when it comes to college, and that's Duke and Alabama. So I think a decision could come soon. But again, whichever of those two schools he goes to, they're going to be holding their breath from now until May 28th when that deadline comes, because I know a lot of NBA teams really like him, and it wouldn't surprise me to see him get some sort of guaranteed deal or a two-way deal.
Cedric Coward, 6'6", 7-foot wingspan, reported 18.7 rebounds, 4 assists, and almost 2 blocks per game last year on 56, 40, 84 shooting. Again, only 6 games, so the sample size is small, but you're not going to find more versatile numbers with those kind of measurables on top. So certainly one of the more intriguing prospects. And Trav, I have been having fun in this one just because I'm not in charge of these transfer portal rankings. So whenever I can just kind of like give off some hate, I'm like, Trotter, what are you doing? Like, he's not a top 30 prospect in the country. What are we talking about here? So I'm just having fun with that one. You mentioned he is an option for Alabama. Alabama has also potentially in the mix for Rylan Griffin, a player who played for the Crimson Tide just 2 years ago. I mean, I assume they can't take both of these guys. So break that one down for us.
Yeah, I think the Rylan Griffin transfer process will be coming to an end fairly soon. He's been recruited by a handful of schools. Most notably, was supposed to be taking a visit to Kentucky, but that was before Denzel Aberdeen took the spot. And now Kentucky is locked and loaded for next season. So now these options are dwindling down themselves organically. And it seems to be that Alabama is now the team to beat. And I would anticipate, if all things go according to plan, that we should have an announcement fairly soon for the Crimson Tide.
So, Trav, let me just ask you by extension here. If we see Griffin to Alabama, does that mean Coward is likely headed to Duke?
I personally give Duke the edge in the Cedric Coward sweepstakes personally. However, if you want to theorize it and talk about the roster construction, you can certainly play a Cedric Coward and a Rylan Griffin alongside each other. And I would imagine that Nate Oates in this program would have no problem pitching that.
All right. Speaking of Alabama, we got another one to talk about. That's Derrion Reed. Came in with a ton of expectations last year as a freshman out of prolific prep, but battled injuries all season long. Missed time over the summer with injury. Never really got into a great rhythm. Now he is in the portal. What is the latest on this former top 30 recruit?
So he really kicked things off yesterday. He went and took a visit to NC State. Believe he is finishing that visit up today. So he's meeting with Will Wade. When he hit the portal, all eyes kind of went to Will Wade on this recruitment. However, other teams are going to get their shot. I don't think this thing is going to be shut down that quickly with a commitment or anything over the next 24 hours. I am looking at Ole Miss and Oklahoma as well in this recruitment. And also a return to Alabama is not off the table. But still, as of right now, I would kind of classify NC State as the leader, but Ole Miss right behind them.
Does Oklahoma have that kind of buying power left, or we think they're still? We're going to talk more about the finances, but do we think they've got the money to get a high sticker guy? Trotter, what do you think about that?
You know, I like the roster that they have right now. Xavier Brown, the addition out of St. Joe's is huge. They have Tay Davis as well. Nigel Pack is big, but they have a big hole at like the 3-4 combo-ish like type of deal because Jeff Nwankwo, one of my favorite JUCO transfer up guys, had a huge injury last year that he's coming back from. So it fits with what their roster is, in Oklahoma, in the SEC.
I just wonder if it fits with the budget.
Yeah, but in the SEC, like, money is going into these teams left and right. And if you don't have money, like, you're going to finish at the bottom of the league, just as LSU and South Carolina.
All right, there you go. Trav, let me ask you this. My perception of Oklahoma's budget is they were playing from behind in a big way last season. And while it has gotten better, it's been challenged by the fact that everybody's has gotten better. Is that a fair summary of their budget right now?
They've definitely been way more aggressive in this transfer portal. You talk around not only just the SEC, but around the country. Porter Moser has been talked about as being one of the most aggressive guys out there in the market this year. And obviously he's shown that in getting Nigel Pack out of Miami. Just got Xavier Brown last night. He talked about a package deal also came with Justin Scott from St. Joseph's. But they also went out and got Tay Davis out of Notre Dame, that hybrid forward that put up big numbers for them this year. So they've had a great portal class, but when it comes to NIL and resources, it seems like they have definitely hit the come up and they were very aggressive with it.
All right, let me ask you about one more guy who was a high-level recruit and hasn't necessarily hit on that just yet. Rakease Passmore from Kansas. What is the latest on his process out of the portal?
Yeah, there's been a big development with him. Miami was in the driver's seat. They're nearing the finish line and getting this thing done. However, I've been told this thing is now back open and he is on the market, ready to hear from more schools. He did take a visit to Virginia as well as Miami. So the Cavaliers could still be involved with this one, but there's a slew of new schools that are showing an inquiring interest out there. So this one, while it was near the finish line and about to come to a conclusion, now we are back in trying to monitor what's going to be happening next, and this thing's going to continue to play out.
Yeah, it seems like there could be some redundancies there at Miami after they got the commitment from Shelton Henderson, the high school prospect, top 20 prospect in the country, who was initially committed to Duke, just flipped to Miami. Of course, they've got a top 15 transfer class, Trey Donaldson, True Washington, Malik Reneau, and Ernest Uday as well. So Jay Lucas doing an incredible job of rebuilding the talent in a hurry. Should also mention Dante Allen, the former Villanova commit, is now committed there as well. He's one of my favorites in the high school level.